Welcome to Growing Pains or Gains, knowing when to hire your first associate. I am so excited for this presentation with Joanne Tanner. You're going to meet her here in just a second. I am Paul Dr. Nacho Goodman, founder of Dental Nachos and Dentist Job Connect. Dentist Job Connect is an awesome sponsor of Dental Nachos. Some of the things that I do besides being a failed NBA superstar is I'm a multiple practice owner at Pennington and Ewing Dental Associates, dental coach and speaker, and CEO and founder of Dentist Job Connect and Dental Nachos. Thrilled to have Joanne here with me today, who is a consultant and leader at Tanner Management Solutions, a dental speaker, and a former dental technician for the United States Navy. So Joanne, I'm thrilled to have you here. I just want to spend a minute welcoming you. What inspired you? Was this your childhood dream to help dentists cry less inside? Because we appreciate it.
Oh, you're so funny. Inspired me to be a coach because when I got out of the Navy, I decided to study business. And then after getting my marketing degree, I decided to go back to grad school and get my master's. And then I discovered that dentists have no idea what they're doing and they don't know what they don't know. And it's been so rewarding. And the bonus to me is I even produced a dentist. Yes, that means my baby is a dentist.
That is awesome. How long have they been a dentist for?
It's in my blood.
That's great. How long has your child been a dentist for?
7 years.
Oh, that's great. And I mean, one of the things to give my dentist people some credit, because dentists just think everything's their fault. So if you go, you don't know anything about business and hiring, it must be my fault. We never actually learn about this language. So I want everyone listening, whether now or in the future, that we learn languages, and no one would expect you to speak Spanish if you were never taught how to speak Spanish. And I just think us dentists take things personally because dental school makes you feel like you should know everything. Oh, how to do your own SEO, how to hire, how to fire. So I'm thrilled to have you here. You can share your screen when you are ready. I just want to make sure that goes well. I appreciate everyone who's watching in. You can ask questions in the chat. We have people here with us on Zoom, which is awesome. If you're watching this on demand, there'll be ways for you to connect with Joanne and us after the show. And you bring me back, Joanne, to my 1980s TV days of Growing Pains, because that was a popular show back there. I can see your presentation. It's in the mode where we can see the screen slides on the other side. So you may prefer it that way, or you may want to have it in slideshow. Perfect. Awesome, Joanne. Well, I'm going to turn this webinar over to you, and I'll be back in 30-ish minutes or so, or 40 minutes to ask you some questions.
Fantastic. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Dental Nachos. Dr. Goodman was talking about in dentistry, they can't be an expert in everything. And when I guest lecture at dental schools, I say to the students, your professor doesn't want you to hear what I'm about to tell you. And I look over my shoulder. Someday, doctor, the dentistry is going to become the easier part of your day. That's right. It's not going to be about margins. Oh, wait, it's a different kind of margin, a profitability margin that you haven't learned about yet. So today we're going to be going over a lot of information, and my slide share decided not to fast forward. One moment, please.
Sometimes you have to give it like that arrow click. It's happened to me, Joanne, too, because I can see the first slide, Growing Pains or Gains. Sometimes you have to find it down there at the bottom, and we can see it in this view too, but let me know if I can be of any help. Usually I do from current slide.
Right, I'll take it from here. So anyway, think back to that when you first got in dentistry. And when I first got in dentistry, I had belt drive handpieces. That's right. We were hand dipping the x-rays. We had a dental x-ray processor finally. It was more automatic. And now, of course, we have all this high tech and high touch things going on in dentistry. A lot of changes going on. Oh, and back in the 70s, when we were placing amalgams, if there was too much mercury, don't worry, because we had a squeeze cloth there, and we weren't wearing gloves back in the 70s. A lot of changes have made. And so, of course, with the onset of dental computers, we have different styles of dentistry.
Joanne, I'm helping you one sec. So you just look awesome. We can see your thing on the side, but you have to, perfect. You have to highlight it, yes, for us to see it. Great. I see the old school printer paper. That's perfect.
Okay. Thank you. So thank goodness my style changed, because if all the things in dentistry have changed, I did too. Yes, that's my Navy boot camp picture where I learned my passion for dentistry. Well, first of all, I grew up in Detroit and I had to get a ticket out of town somehow. And the Navy talked to me about it. I said, sounds good to me. And I figured I'd get stationed in Chicago, right? Nope, not a chance. They sent me to Naval Regional Dental Center in Naples, Italy. I was very fortunate. They worked with a periodontist and fell in love with hygiene. But when I got out of the Navy, I decided to study business, as I was mentioning earlier, focusing my efforts on dentists that are buying a practice or growing a practice. Today's presentation is about growing pains or gains. Because what, are you ready to bring on an associate doctor? Because it comes down to the numbers, right? Not just an associate, the right associate, not just anyone. And how do you know if it's time to add the practice? And that's what we're going to decide today. Is it time that I add an associate? If not, what can you do to improve your practice? So in hiring associates, it's kind of like when you want a bigger house, right? And you think it's going to be great, but then all of a sudden your current house needs a roof. Well, the bigger house is going to be so exciting, but yet the roof needs to happen. Same thing in dentistry, that we need to figure out what's important now, taking care of our foundation. Because maybe your schedule is full, but for how many weeks? And are you wanting to improve your work-life balance? Let's determine your why, doctors. And so we can put you on a path to make sure that it's going to be successful. You need to do some research on that. So you're feeling a little overwhelmed, maybe? Adding associate may not be the answer. So we need to make sure we understand what's going on in the practice, and again, making a good decision. I work closely with a number of dental CPAs, and they've taught us a lot about affordability and making sure that when you're making a decision, an important fiscal decision about adding an associate, can I afford to hire an associate? Doctors, look at your cash flow, all right? Pay yourself 30% of what you produce. And at the end, are there still profits? Is there still 20% leftover profit? If not, it's definitely not time to hire an associate. All right, that could be devastating financial disaster for the practice if you don't have the profitability in place before you add the associate. So we want to look at some growth potential, because if your practice isn't growing, we need to help you make sure to get you on track. All right. Are you referring out some patients to specialists that maybe you can learn to do in-house, or find the right associate that can do your treatments? So is the practice growing or is it declining? Because according to Deming, we know that we're either growing or declining. There's nothing in between. So if you're not on a growth path, you're definitely declining, and we need to put you on that path to growth so you can afford to go to the next level and hire your associate. One of the first things we look at is the patient retention rate. You might say, what does that mean? All right, so we start with the pre-appointing, the patient's next hygiene visit. When I work with dental teams and I ask them, okay, of all the 100 or 200, how many hygiene patients you saw in the last month? How many left for their next appointment? Most of the time, doctors that are listening, you might think 90%, right? I saw so many patients this month, at least 90%. Well, we measure hygiene reappointment rate, and this particular practice was only doing 66%. That means of the 230 patients that visited for hygiene, 72 patients left unscheduled. So this is an important statistics to track. And when we work with practices, we measure, therefore manage this patient retention index every month. So therefore, how many patients are past due? If we're not pre-appointing only 66%, what happened to the other ones? So 6 to 9 months, there's a 166 patients, all the way up to 297, 18 to 36 months past due. So we have a total of 410 between 6 and 18 months. Not to mention the 297 that are past due. So doctors, when you're doing your hygiene exams, are you doing the hygiene exams once a year or twice a year? Take a look at your active patient base. what was it January 2023? And how many active patients did you have at the end of 2023? Because in this particular practice, they had 1,580 active patients the beginning of the year and only 1,375 at the end. Most likely this practice is not ready to add an associate. That's only one indicator. So some of you are thinking, well, Joanne, how many new patients do I need? What am I going to do? So a small yet stable practice with modest growth, and if that's been working for the profitability of the practice, they have 10 to 15 new patients per month. However, if you're growing more and you're getting 20 to 25 new patients per month, but doctors, if you want to add that associate and grow your practice, you need 30 to 50 new patients per month. So that means at least 20 new patients per month per full-time equivalent doctor. So yes, that means you need to be able to take care of the 30 to 50 in the beginning because you want to have those patients in your practice to delegate, or at least having 25. So let's take a look at our patient capacity. The patient volume in your practice today is going to impact the need for an associate. For example, are there long wait times for appointments? Are you able to accommodate new patients? If so, how long do they have to wait for an appointment? Now, doctor, I'm not saying, oh yeah, you have a cancellation for tomorrow. I can get them in tomorrow. But after tomorrow, do they have to wait 3 or 4 weeks? Or are they just waiting 2 or 3 days? So we need to make sure we're able to accommodate those new patients in a timely manner. If they are having to wait more than 1 week to come in as a new patient, we need to discuss. Because in order to grow, we need to open the flow. We need to be able to accommodate those new patients. So doctors, take a look at your schedule. Are you productively booked out 4 to 6 weeks? Notice I use the word productively. When we work with dental teams talking about scheduling for production, we need to make sure you're saving room in your schedule for the higher production. We call them rocks, or some practices call them pearls. And so if you're scheduled booking out there 4 to 6 weeks with all of those high production slots, with the sand filling in around it, with the water, or is the water going in first? And then there's all kinds of fillings, the sand, and then I have no room for my rocks. So if you only have sand and water in your day, it's like a day at the beach. And it's really not fun for you, doctor. So we need to work on productively scheduling your practice. And again, adding that 30 to 40 new patients per month. So we need to help you create a formula. How many appointments are doctor you currently seeing each day? And how many working days per year? Many of our clients plan for next year, this time of year. We put together a plan for 2025, knowing now when are we taking vacation, office closures, any other CE days, how many working days do I plan to work? Multiply the appointments times the work days, and then you're going to be able to get how many total visits per year. This particular example, the practice had 1,700 inactive patients. That's a very nice size practice. Each patient may come in for restorative treatments. Maybe they don't need anything. Maybe they need to come in 5+ times per year. So this particular practice, on average, saw patients 3.4 times. So that means 5,950 visits per year. This particular same practice was seeing on average 18 appointments per day, working 190 days per year. So their capacity, the appointments that they can handle, is 3,420 visits per year. So this is very important. When you take your current capacity per year, divide that by your appointment capacity. If it exceeds 80 to 85%, you might need additional help. If it's only coming out to 50 or 60, we need to work on practice growth. We need to work on systems and foundation, all right? Because if those patients aren't coming back, we had over 400 patients that are 18 months past due. You don't need to do any marketing. We couldn't even keep track of the ones we have. So we need to make sure all those systems are in place before we add the associate. So back to our example here, this office had over 5,900 visits per year. Their capacity was 3,420. They're clearly overutilized, and it shows we could definitely benefit from an associate. This doctor is very stressed. He's been working 5 to 6 days a week at the chair, not counting of all the hours and days they're working on your practice. Yes, doctors, most of you work in your practice. It's now time to work on the business. So we have a plan, not a reactive plan, being proactive about your practice. So if you determine you want to have an associate, let's talk about the vision for the practice. What kind of performance are we achieving now? Where is our vision where we're going? And how are we going to get there? I call this the GPS of practice management. Because are we on track, or do we need to make some adjustments like my Waze app helps when we're driving? So doctors, clarify your vision. And it's fine if you want to stay a solo practice. However, we need to look at if maybe part of your vision is to grow. How does that associate fit into that vision? And how can we make a plan so it fits for your practice? When we work with dental claims teams, we want to clarify your vision. And let's determine how an associate fits into that vision. Are they simply going to be doing restorative? Or as we mentioned earlier, are they going to do some of the higher tech procedures and communicate that vision to your team? Are the associates' goals and values aligned with the practice? And so we want to take a look at that alignment of the team. We need to have you learn to lead and delegate. Leadership is very important to the practice. And if you're not a good leader, you need to start taking courses, reading books, and developing strong leadership skills when bringing on the associate. That's critical, it's crucial for the foundation. Some doctors are uncomfortable delegating, but it's also important that you learn to lead and mentor. You're to be guiding that associate. Maybe they only have 2 or 3 years out of dental school or less. So you'll be looking at the x-rays before and after. You'll be checking in with them in the beginning, maybe daily, at least once a week, doing what we refer to as a chart check. All right. Delegate and elevate, doctors. So if you're ready to hire an associate, where do we start? Well, we're fortunate that Dental Nachos will help us hire the right associate so you can have the freedom, you can have the free time with your family, and fewer hygiene checks. Recruitment has been so difficult through all the years, but since COVID, it's more difficult. So we're glad to have Dental Nachos help us with connecting with doctors for our teams. They also want to make sure you hire the right associate, not just any associate, the right one, so we can grow our practice. Now, doctors, if you are hiring an associate, there are some financial and legal considerations. For example, what's the compensation model that you're going to have for the associate? Are you going to be paying on adjusted production? Is that daily or is it every 2 weeks? And by the way, if it is daily, I would suggest, yes, you have a daily base, but it's calculated over at least a 2-week period, because there are good days and not so good days. So at the end of the 2 weeks, when you're doing payroll, you take a look, they worked 8 days based on 800 a day, or 30% of adjusted net production. Which one is higher than the other? You might also be paying the associate on collections. We have a couple of practices doing that. You definitely need to have an employment agreement outlining some very, very important issues. Is there a non-compete clause? Now, I'm in California. Non-compete for an associate is not legal. However, it is legal when upon a practice sale. And we work with a lot of doctors on the due diligence when buying a practice. That is when the non-compete for the seller comes into place. However, you can have a provision in the PowerPoint, in the presentation, that the associate can and cannot do certain things. Termination terms, responsibilities, and the attorney can help you with all that. So definitely consult with a dental specific attorney to ensure all the legal aspects are covered, right? So you might be getting worried, and how do you go about this? I'm going to tell you a great success story. I helped a doctor when she was buying a practice back in 2017, and they had an old computer. She had to update to Dentrix. She is now paperless. They had charts. They had traditional x-rays. Our neck was, hurting at the end of the evening looking at all the x-rays. She had to go from Delta Premier to Delta PPO, and that was a significant reduction in revenue, but it still went okay because there were procedures that the seller was doing. Then, of course, COVID hit. She survived that. But even with all these challenges, she hired her first associate in July of 2023. All right. She went from the practice doing around 700,000 that first year. In 2022, they did 1.3. We said, we're ready. And I'm proud to say that that particular practice is now projected to do nearly 1.9 this year. Again, they hired their first associate just a few years ago. So some of you had a couple of questions. Morgan, did you have some questions from our audience at this time?
Joanne, I want to share, as someone who's been around the block, whatever that means, this is one of the most fantastic explanations of how to evaluate your practice for an associate dentist with both feelings and facts. I think feelings and facts are so important. Our F's of unlocking more schedule freedom, free time with your family, and best of all, fewer hygiene checks. What percentage of dentists, Joanne, want to check fewer hygienists? That is 100% of dentists. So I have a few questions here I want to bring up and then chat with you more. What do you think of having associates do some hygiene or continuing care for their patients?
In the beginning, absolutely. It's a great way for them to make a relationship with the patient, really getting to know them, because we may not have a full schedule for them to do all the restorative in the beginning. So I think that's a brilliant idea. And by the way, if I can add to that, doctors, if you're currently only doing one hygiene, one recall, continuing care examination every year, do two. And it's not about the money. We're talking, again, relationship. Because you see, the patients in their eyes, they think dentistry is all the same. No matter where they go, a crown is the same, a cleaning is the same. So we need to make sure your team is explaining and showing that we truly are different. So yes, have the associate do the hygiene exams and doing it 2 times a year. And it's not about charging. All right. Again, it's about the relationship.
I love that, Jen. I want to tell you about this dentist who did a multiple year general practice residency. This dentist learned how to place and restore 150 implants back in 2002 when general dentists placing implants was a big deal. This dentist had extracted probably over 1,000 teeth before they got to their associate job. This dentist had done full mouth restorations with the help of their faculty. And the first thing this dentist did in the practice was hygiene, and that dentist was me. I joined my dad's practice. And even though I had these skills, a couple of things I want to share is nothing goes wrong during a hygiene exam. So the class 2 composite doesn't miss a contact. The crown doesn't misfit. So it's a really good opportunity to be a hero. It's a great opportunity to ask the patients questions. And while it doesn't have to be forever, like I cannot agree with you more strongly that doing hygiene is a great way to develop relationships. And I don't want this to be a trick question for you, Joanne, so I want to make it right. My opinion is that the most important people in the practice to trust the new associates is the team. It is not the owner dentist stuck in their operatory doing their own full arts and crafts. And it's not even the patients because they don't know who to trust. But the team needs to know that you can manage an appointment with efficiency. So show that you can get a hygiene patient started on time, finished on time, because one of the things that can cause mistrust, lack of confidence, is just not being able to stay on schedule. And when you are given new patients to your schedule for difficult restorative procedures, it can be unpredictable. So I love your answer. And I don't know, what did you think of my add to that?
Oh, absolutely. Because when the hygienist is doing the cleaning, hey, did you hear the exciting news? Dr. Tanner recently joined our team. Wait till you meet him. He is so nice. She is so very gentle. They plant the seed for success in that relationship. Of course, the front office may have started it when they talked on the phone, but the hygienist really builds up the associates. So doctors, when you are bringing on board the associate, or if there's any associates listening, make sure that you're able to do the dentistry on the employees, that you create relationship with them, because it's about how nice they are. It's about our communication skills. So I agree.
I love that. You can unshare, so because we'll be able to see each other larger on the screen for these questions here.
Right.
Oh, do you want something else? I'm sorry. You have more you want to share? I can go back to off video. I want to.
No,
Oh, good.
that's fine.
So, the next question I wanted to ask you, Joanne, from our group, is about new patients. If someone's looking to grow their practice, what are some good internal marketing strategies? Every dentist is looking to do this. What are some ways that they can do that?
So within the internal marketing, all right, what I want to look at is all those patients that are 18 months past due. So that they're not necessarily new patients, but we want to welcome back. So I have an internal marketing idea. It's so simple. That particular office had over 418 months past due. Create a flyer. We do that for our clients, or you can reach out to me, and it's a welcome back offer. Because chances are they haven't gone anywhere. It's just that 2 years goes by so fast for us. And you might give them a complimentary take-home teeth whitening. So, oh, Joanne, that costs so much. Only if they come back to the practice.
Yeah.
So you give them a choice. Since not everyone's a candidate for whitening, you might give them the choice of a water flosser or electronic toothbrush. Give them something of dental value. We're not talking about money here for all those dental attorneys that might be listening to the presentation.
Yeah.
It's about providing good dental health. And it's not a home run, but we want to make sure that we're able to get them in. But also, we want to make sure that office managers are checking the settings for the practice patients that are past due. Whenever there's a power outage, might be happening today in Florida with that hurricane, whenever PG&E shuts down because of rolling necessary needs to shut down our power, go in and check the reminder settings for all the patients that are past due, because frequently it defaults to 1, 3, 6, and 12.
Yeah.
Well, what happened to month 2, 4, 5, 7 through 11, not to mention 13 to 18 plus?
I want to share a story,
little
Joanne. You're a consultant
Yeah.
and you help practices grow. We did a chart merger, and your idea here is brilliant. So we one time bought the charts of a dentist who was a very nice man, worked all by himself. He collected $110,000 a year, and he wanted to just move to the beach with his wife. So we bought his charts, and that was about 2014. So we literally bought the charts, the actual physical charts. There was no computer in the office. So we took them all, my office manager and I, hand by hand, wrote letters, we sent letters to everybody, right? This is like, old school days. People were coming in who hadn't seen him in 4 years and said, I can't believe he abandoned me. I go, last time you were here, do you see how old he was? And I say this in a complimentary way. Let this nice dentist retire, right? But what was funny was we reactivated patients who hadn't seen him in a long time. And we all have that in our practice. So I think that that's just like brilliant advice. Now, before we wrap up, this is important to me. If we think of a practice like my body, Joanne, I'll use my own body, I might need a nutritionist. I might need a personal trainer. I might need someone to help me with sleep. I might need someone with time management. So if we think of a practice like my body, it's very difficult when you run a body, run a practice, to know who does what, right? If your nutritionist showed up and you said, I'm here to lift weights, they would think you were crazy. Said, I don't do the weightlifting, I do the food. What do you do for practices on a daily basis? Explain it to us like we're 6-year-olds. What do you do for them?
We help doctors when they first want to buy a practice.
Gotcha.
So it's in their due diligence, because they don't know what they don't know. But most of my time and my days are helping existing practices grow and manage, because they have questions regarding new patients. How do I do some marketing? We make sure that everything is being followed up on. I use the analogy about 5 frogs on a log, 4 decide to jump. How many are left? 5 frogs on a log, 4 decide to jump. A lot of you are saying, well, Joanne, only 1. No, they decided, they just didn't do anything about it.
Oh, I like
So
that.
frequently I become the chief reminding officer because you may have thought about the idea, you just didn't do it.
I like
So
that,
we
chief
it's
reminding
one thing to
officer. That's
exactly. So some easy internal marketing ideas, utilizing the systems that frequently they all have. So I do want to offer to the listeners today and those that might be listening at another time, a complimentary practice assessment. So I can
awesome.
take a look at your patient retention rate. I can take a look at how many new patients you're currently getting, your production to collection ratio, including your accounts receivables, to make sure those key practice indicators are working now.
How can people take advantage of this awesome offer, Joanne?
They can go to my website, tannermanagement.com. That's TANNERMGMT.com. Or they can call or text 916-591-2720.
Also, with that, now I have some friends watching in here I know. And hey, Joanne, what do dentists, practice brokers, and consultants all have in common? This is my riddle. I like that frog one. I got it wrong in my mind. But what do dentists, practice brokers, and consultants all have in common? And that is all of their clients, customers, and patients think they're too expensive, right? So when a dentist goes to a practice broker and says, "You're way too expensive," our patients say that to us
Yeah.
about a crown. They say that to us. So if I bring us all together, could you share with us, whether it's a good,
Mhm.
better, best, small, medium, and large, what are people investing in your services so that they just have context if they're saying it, whether they got to save up for it, whether they're going to be taking out a loan for it, what are they investing in your services?
Well, unlike some consultants who have a $30,000 a year and they make you sign up for a year or longer, we work month to month. Now, I will
Awesome.
tell you, I have many clients who've been with me for 15 plus years, a couple of them 20 plus years, yes, since the 90s. Right
Wow.
now, we have a very affordable month-to-month Zoom coaching. We don't have to physically go into the office necessarily. So it could be as little as $650 to up to $750 a month. That's all. For 3 Zooms a month, and we do all kinds of reports. And then we can take a look if they ever do need an in-office visit, but we can do a lot from the Zoom sessions and of course, telephone and email support month to month. That's critical, right?
And that's a manageable thing. And one of the things I'll share, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but hopefully it's value for the audience. It's like when we go to a dentist and we say, "Oh, buy a dentist job connect package, it's $3,000," just as an example. The dental practice is bringing in $1.7 million. $3,000 is like asking a person to kind of go out to dinner for the night if you look at the practice collections versus what they spend. Coming back to your services, it's such an affordable way to remove anxiety, right? Remove anxiety,
Mhm.
embrace awesomeness. And I just think dentists, my hope is to inspire them to work with more advisors, whether it's transitions brokers, whether it's consultants, whether it's accountants, because
Mhm.
that's another thing dental school makes us feel weird about. Now, not only are we supposed to know everything we've never been taught, like you should just know how to speak Spanish. Also, you shouldn't spend any money on anything, right? And I've said this for many years. I believe that consulting and coaching should be a line item that you spend every year, no matter what, right? And whether that's with Joanne Tanner,
Right.
whether it's a different group, was this because if you talk to people who've done coaching, they say things like, "I wish I did it sooner," much like our patients who wait on dental treatment. So I appreciate that you're sharing your
Mhm.
awesome lessons. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you wanted to share with our audience?
Well, yes, because sometimes that word consultant can be intimidating to the team. So if doctor decides that they want to bring on board a consultant, as you can probably tell from my presentation, I'm a down to earth girl from downriver Detroit. I mean, and because I've sat in the back, I was an RDA for many years. Again, I did clinical hygiene in the Navy. I worked up front for many years. I've been there, done that, as they say, and I can relate to the team. So that to me is the difference. So we frequently say we're going to be doing some online seminars. I've lectured at numerous
I like
dental societies across the country. And so then we figure out where are we now and where do we want to go together as a team. We need to get here. Therefore, together as a team, we're going to plan our steps while
I
I'm
love it.
guiding them all the way. Yes.
I like it. Steps are very popular. Everyone's trying to track their steps, me included. I got over 10,000 yesterday, so I hope everyone applauds me. So before we wrap up, people who are here, whether you're on our team, one of my friendly broker friends, put in the chat something you learned from Joanne today watching and some aha moment, something that you want to do more of. I think it's so key that we type out or we say, Joanne, that, hey, I'm going to look at my active patient count. I'm going to think about hiring an associate. And as they're doing that, Joanne, I know I run Dentist Job Connect and Dental Nachos. Do you find that most dentists who hire an associate never want to go back to practicing alone? That if their associate moves across the country, they say, I'm getting another associate. Talk to us about that just for 2 minutes.
Well, they're afraid of change, the fear of the unknown. All right. So they don't know where to start. And that's where dental naturals can come in. I saw a chat come in, so I was a little distracted. So you're saying,
No, that's okay. I give them time because nobody just jumps and does anything. Very few people listen to me, Joanne. So I was like, hey, could you share something in the chat? And one person, she did move away from Philadelphia, but she shared clarify your vision is something she took home. I just wanted my team to share some take home points and the people in the chat who are listening. But while they were doing that, I just want to share that do most dentists who hire an associate dentist, if that associate leaves, look to hire another. They don't want to go back to practicing alone.
right.
They like having camaraderie.
And they like having the expanded hours for their patients. Because before maybe they didn't have Saturday hours, maybe before they didn't have evening hours. So they never want to go back again. It is scary in the beginning, but then once they find the right associate, keyword, the right fit, getting your team on board to understand why are we bringing one on board and making sure that you can afford it.
Yeah, I love what you've shared. Someone else had shared getting to know when a good time is to bring in an associate. It's very stressful to do dentistry by yourself. For years, I did our satellite practice on Thursdays by myself, Joanne. And all I did, but not all I did, what I did was I would check hygienist and do simple restorative procedures. And it was the most stressful day of my week because I didn't have any other dentist to help me with hygiene. I didn't have anyone else. So if you are a solo dentist out there, you're looking to grow, connect with Dentist Job connect with Joanne. One of my friends here said, love the formula to determine if your practice is ready for an associate. Thank you. Important to make sure your goals and values between the owner and the associate are a fit. Well, you are awesome, Joanne. Thank you for being here today. We truly appreciate it, and we'll see you again in the future.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone.